Mother Ghost.
Join me, Mother Ghost, in my parlor as we talk about eerie stories and spooky encounters. If you're not too scared, join my friend Jackie from Spoon River Paranormal as she takes you on some spine-tingling adventures around central Illinois. Our first stop, boys and ghouls, is Peoria, Illinois. My old stomping grounds, the Springdale Cemetery.
Springdale Cemetery, Peoria's largest cemetery, spreads over 225 acres of land and was founded in 1855. With a population of over 70,000 resting residents, it is also one of the largest cemeteries in Illinois. Needless to say, it has a number of ghost stories tied to it. The apparition of a white lady may be one of the most talked about. Nearly 100 years ago, on June 17, 1935, a young lady's murdered body was found naked in the cemetery near the spot where the gazebo adorns the lawn next to the creek. Her name was Mildred Hallmark. She was 19, and she had last been seen the night before getting off of a streetcar at her regular stop. She was never seen alive again after that. Her murder sparked an intense investigation into a string of serial rapes that had been happening in the area. When one of the rapist's next would-be victim escaped, she helped identify the assailant as 25-year-old Gerald Thompson, a local and very well-known and well-liked man that worked at Caterpillar. After his trial, he was sentenced to death. But what about poor Mildred? It is said, and it has been witnessed by many, that Mildred can still be seen hanging around the gazebo, wearing all white and mourning the loss of her young life that was taken away way too soon by a sick and twisted pervert.
What does Dracula have in common with Mr. Purple? Well, they supposedly are both creatures of the night. There's been an old rumor, an urban legend, if you will, floating around Peoria for a long time, that Mr. Purple and his family were a family of vampires. And you can see how they put heavy rocks on top of Mr. Purple's grave to prevent him from escaping. Next stop, the Witch's Circle.
I'm getting ready to walk up to the Witch's Circle at Springdale Cemetery in Peoria. They call it the Witch's Circle because there have been people that have come back here that have done occult practices. Unfortunately, a lot of people have ended it all in that tree behind me. Not only that, but there's a burial of a rumored witch here, and I'm going to show you which one it is when we get here. And it'd be cool if the audio would catch some sort of EVP while we're here. There's a path. This is like Pet Cemetery somewhat because there's the tree, because there's like little paths around here that go into the woods. Anyhow, we are going to the witch's grave right now. Do you see it? Do you see which one it is? It's this one. You can't really see on the camera very well, but it's sunken in pretty good. It's this sunken in grave. I'm trying to get all angles so you can see how it's sunken in. And this is the circle. I'm at the Witch's Circle at Springdale Cemetery. Laura. And then there's another path here that goes off into the woods. And there's like another family burial right down there. posted a video about the Witch's Circle in the Springdale Cemetery shortly after I received this disturbing comment. This man states that he did a solo investigation, and as soon as he stepped into the Witch's Circle, he heard a growl over his shoulder. He also caught a very disturbing EVP. And to think, I was there all by myself in the Witch's Circle yesterday. There's also an old story about this statue coming alive at night.
She's not the only statue that comes alive at night. It's not just witches and vampires and ghosts wandering about. There are also cryptids like my friend Sasquatch lurking in the woods of central Illinois.
Sighting comes from Wildlife Prairie Park just outside of Peoria, Illinois. It is February 15th, 2025, and this may be the first Bigfoot sighting of the year. And it's not really a sighting of the creature itself, it is a sighting of some footprints. If you look at this picture here, it also looks like there may be a baby set of footprints along with the big ones. What a lot of people don't realize is that Illinois has had several Bigfoot sightings throughout the years. Several people have come forward saying that they saw or heard something, and you can go to the BFR website and look at all the information for yourself. Outside of Glassford, Illinois last year, a truck driver allegedly saw a Bigfoot. Kendall County also had a sighting of a Bigfoot last year near Fork River. But the Glassford one really intrigues me because Wildlife Prairie Park really isn't that far from Glassford the way the crow flies. Could we really have a family of Bigfoot living among us in central Dutch Illinois? Henry is a rural road located southeast of Lewistown, Illinois. You can see it in the highlighted portion where most of these stories actually take place. The first story is that if you park your car on the railroad tracks in the middle of the night, an unseen force will push your car down the hill. Upon getting out of your vehicle, you will see small handprints all over in the dust. They say that the handprints are that of children because of some school bus accident that supposedly happened, but I have found no evidence to support this. The other story involves that of a Bigfoot sighting back in the 60s. If you didn't know, Illinois is a hotspot for Bigfoot sightings. This took place by some teenagers that were down by the railroad tracks on Dutch Henry Road. Yes, those very same tracks with the handprints. And this brings me to the final story about Dutch Henry, that of a shadow figure supposedly lurking in the woods by the railroad track trestles. So if you're down there trespassing, beware. You might find more than mushrooms.
My friend Eddie Dedder and I have been dying to tell you about the ghost that haunts the St. David School and the ghosts at Blood Moon Manor in Forest City.
The school was built in 1911. In the past, parts of the school had been destroyed due to storms, and the bell tower no longer remains. One of the stories surrounding the haunting here at the St. David School is that of a young girl who was ran over by a truck that was backing up in the parking lot one day after school. She is said to haunt the swings. Another story is that of the janitor named Gus. They say that Gus still protects the school to this day. They say the spirit of Gus really acts up right before a storm comes, since St. David is right in the middle of Tornado Alley and the school has been destroyed by storms before. I received this message from somebody who had purchased my book. They were absolutely floored when they read my chapter about St. David and the activity that happens there. They too had witnessed the same exact paranormal activity at the St. David School. The Skinner House in Forest City, Illinois is a Halloween attraction, also known as Blood Moon Manor. But did you know that it is really haunted? and that sometimes at the end of the haunt, when you're outside walking through the maze, the little ghost girl will show herself to patrons. So let me know if you've ever been to Blood Moon Manor and you've seen what you thought was a holographic little girl at the end of the trail, because there have been reports that no such girl exists, and that's the little girl ghost that stays there. This is actually a picture that's said to be the little ghost girl at the Skinner house, aka Blood Moon Manor. The Skinner house also has more than one ghost. You can read all about it in my book, Spoon River Paranormal, available on Amazon. I have been on a paranormal investigation at Blood Moon Manor, and when I was outside, I was actually by myself outside, and I captured an EVP, and it sounded like a male saying, "Get." I made it out. The Haunted Gymnasium in Havana, Illinois can be rented out for a $100 minimum donation to the Park District for an overnight paranormal investigation. Happenings include a ghost janitor, a ghost boy who was allegedly locked in overnight and died, EVPs, shadow figures, a xylophone has been heard. The basement is a hot spot, the women's bathroom is a hot spot, and people have been touched in the boiler room. There are many other stories about this place. Basketballs have been heard dribbling, etc. Children's voices and cries are the most predominant occurrence, and it usually happens in the basement. If you are interested in renting out the Havana Gymnasium, please contact the Havana Park District. Rockwell Park is a park that was built right on top of a Native American burial ground, also known as Rockwell Mound. Before it was a park, President Lincoln was known to give many speeches here back in the day when he was rallying to become senator and then president of the United States. There were many parades and gatherings in this general area, as it was a hub of the town of Havana. But it also has a creepy connotation, being the site of a burial ground and all. There is a pavilion at the top of the mound that has had many reports of disembodied voices and Native American drumming noises. There have also been reports of Civil War type drums being heard in the area. For whatever reason, it's known for its drumming. People have also been known to get creepy feelings by the swings and have seen orbs in the general park area. Could this be caused by all the energy from the political rallies and the parades from back in the day? Or could it be because the Native American spirits are at unrest? Let me know in the comments if you've ever had any experiences at Rockwell Mound in Havana, Illinois. If you'd like to conduct a paranormal investigation here after dark, it would be best to contact the Havana Park District and let them know what you are doing. That way, if the police do show up, you'll be golden. The Dixon Mounds Museum and Archaeological Site came about in 1927 when chiropractor Don Dixon began unearthing Native American burial mounds on his family farm. He unearthed these ancient skeletons by using brushes and archaeological tools. Within the first year, 40,000 visitors had flocked to see the site. This also grabbed the attention of state universities so they could come study the remains. Eventually, the site was sold to the state and made into a museum, where the state employed Don Dixon and most of his family to take care of it. This museum held not only Native American artifacts, but Native American bones and burials were on full display. Of course, these bones being on display came with backlash, and Native Americans protested, saying that it was oppression and that it also desecrated the graves of their ancestors. In the early 1990s, the Native Tribal Council won and the bones were covered up. But the bones never left the museum. They were buried underneath the floor where they originally lay. They are in the same room with the projector screens and the scary thunder noises. Over the years, I have heard many stories, and people have even written into me to tell me about how haunted Dixon Mounds is. especially in that projector room where the bones still are. When you go to Dixon Mounds, you usually start your tour on the 3rd floor where there's a movie that you watch. Sometimes those doors will open and close uncontrollably and the movie will start and stop by itself. Sometimes the elevator will have a mind of its own, and when people take the stairs, they feel very uneasy and uncomfortable. The 2nd floor is where all of the artifacts are held and also where the bone room is. You walk the catwalk in that room all the way down to the 1st floor, listening to a story as you go. A lot of people claim to have seen shadows on the catwalk when they know they were in there alone. I once got an email from someone stating that they were eating in the cafeteria when Dixon Mounds used to have the cafeteria area. He was sitting there enjoying lunch with his family when all of a sudden the plastic fork raised up, levitated off of the table, and then flew across the room. He and his family looked at each other with shock and awe. This picture was sent to me by somebody that lives in a house that neighbors the Dixon Mounds Native American Museum. They were having a bonfire one crisp fall night with a few friends standing around the fire, and they noticed that the fire was starting to act a little strange. It was swirling and acting unnaturally. So they got out the phone and took a picture, and this is what they captured. If you look at old pictures of Native Americans, you can see that they have rings on their sleeves. Even if they're not wearing a shirt, they have some sort of ring on their bicep or on their arm. It is very prevalent in all of these pictures. There are Native American burial grounds all along Waterford Road, especially the area where the bluff overlooks the river. There are many houses that are haunted because they are built directly on top of Native American burial grounds on Waterford Road.
It's not just witches that can move things with their mind. Poltergeists, like Juanette McNeil over in Macomb, Illinois, could also move things with her mind.
Poltergeist is a German word meaning noisy ghost. It is usually extreme activity like chairs flying, things levitating, things getting stacked, knocks, things flying across the room, scary stuff. But what most people don't know is that poltergeist activity is usually the product of a live person, like some sort of form of telekinesis or psychokinesis. Sometimes ghosts can move stuff. So sometimes poltergeist activity can be the works of a spirit. If you can hear my dog walking around, I'm sorry, she's a tank. But anyhow, the Macomb poltergeist was a tale about an unruly little girl who started fires with her mind. This actually inspired Stephen King to write his novel Firestarter.
Charlie McGee is a healthy 8-year-old girl, normal in every way.
Charlie, now watch what you're doing.
But one.
Did she do that?
What are you gonna do with her? I'll bring her here, so you can do all your tests. Then you give her to me.
Charlie has the power.
Do something bad? Will you still love me?
Oh, Charlie.
She can set things on fire.
Something's happening in there.
With just a glance. It is a power she does not want.
Stick around.
Daddy, I'm scared.
So who am I, honey?
A power she cannot control.
Back up.
And each night, she prays.
So I've read. Stephen, if you're listening, please verify. The 13-year-old girl's name was Juanette McNeil, and her little brother Arthur Jr. and her father Arthur had moved to this family farm in rural Macomb after her parents' divorce. And they moved in with her uncle Charlie Wiley, along with all of his family too. So Juanette and her family were from Bloomington, Illinois. And needless to say, Juanette was not happy about moving to a rural farm with her dad and brother. I'm sure that she missed her mom. Shortly after moving into the residence, strange things started to happen. It started on August 7th and continued through the rest of the month. Little brown spots spontaneously started forming onto the wallpaper out of nowhere. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that the small brown spots were in fact burn marks. Maybe probably looked like someone took a cigarette. The strange incidents started to get worse though. By the day, the burn marks that just appeared out of nowhere started to become bigger and bigger. They were happening more frequently. Not only that, but they were no longer just marks. These spots were starting to burst into flames right before everyone's eyes. The family was baffled as to why or what was causing the phenomena, and it looked to friends and neighbors for help. The friends and neighbors tried to help by staying at the Wiley farmhouse around the clock in shifts, accompanied by bowls and buckets of water, so they could put out the flames as quickly as they started. Even with the help of the neighbors, the fire started to get worse and worse as the days went by. A fire broke out on the front porch, and it sent the curtains adorning the windows of the house up in flames. And another fire broke out and burned up a household ironing board. And that was just the beginning. During the following week, more than 200 unexplained fires broke out at the house, which eventually caused the place to be consumed by flames and totally lost. So, of course, all these fires caught the attention of not only the police, but the insurance companies. And they came sniffing around, and they brought investigators, they brought doctors, they brought scientists, and there was no explanation for why these fires kept breaking out. There was a fire chief named Fred Wilson, and he was just as confused as to everyone else as to why these fires were happening. And he actually witnessed with his own eyes flames bursting out of nowhere. And, he was definitely mind blown after that. People from the United States Air Force actually came and investigated this case because they thought maybe the Russians had a direct energy weapon and was, firing it at the farm for some reason. There were simply no answers, and the police were not satisfied until they had a culprit. And they had their eyes on 13-year-old Wynette. It was the only thing that they could come up with. In the end, Wynette basically took the blame for starting the fires because she was extremely unhappy. She was lonely. She missed her mom. She missed her friends. When you understand poltergeist activity and sometimes emotional turmoil, puberty, things like that can cause it to happen out of nowhere, then this is kind of a telltale case of classic poltergeist. Anyhow, it happened in 1948 in Macomb, Illinois. Go Leathernecks.
If you want to hear more stories from me, Mother Ghost, follow Spoon River Paranormal on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'll see you in my parlor.